Hello, everybody. Well, it's official. The Super Bowl is finished, and just so you know, this might be my last time talking about it. Do got to move on to other subjects and other things, obviously. And like many, it was a great time overall. I'm so glad the Eagles won. It was just, I was tired of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was tired of Taylor Swift as well. So, but going into this game, I mean, obviously, granted, it was great to see the Chiefs go down, but you have to consider the fact that it was also very surprising as well. I mean, like, you had a team that was borderline unstoppable with a lot of help from the refs, of course, during the season. So that really didn't help either. So, and the refs really weren't really a factor in this game, thankfully. So, but that being said, it was clear that obviously the Eagles did their homework and did extensive homework as well. I mean, they sort of, because they had almost every angle covered defensively. Mahomes had no one to pass to. I mean, this was probably the worst I've ever seen Mahomes play in a long time. Not since, that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay where they lost as well, have I ever seen him play so poorly, And yes, to an extent, like, considering the fact that, Kansas City did get pretty lucky in some areas. I mean, like, during last Super Bowl, it wasn't so much that, they beat San Francisco. San Francisco beat themselves because typical, Kyle Shanahan fashion. I mean, he sat on the lead, He should have never done that. I mean, and granted, like, I don't know. I mean, I think there were a lot of factors. I mean, the Eagles clearly wanted it more. And defensively, like I said, they did their homework. And I think, the size advantage played a huge factor as well. I mean, you notice, and there were a lot of things about Kansas City's game that I really caught on to as I was watching this season. Like, one of the biggest problems they had is that sometimes, like, the offensive line, the guards do crowd in too close sometimes to protect Mahomes. And to the point where sometimes they're almost pushing him in, and that's what the Eagles did. I mean, they pushed him right into him, and that's what they were trying to do. They weren't trying to get around him. No, they were pushing forward, They were pushing towards Mahomes, forcing him to go back even more, forcing him to try to, scramble and try to find a position to throw the ball and run the ball. And with that, they were able to get to him. So again, that's very smart coaching on Philadelphia's behalf. So, got to give credit is due. I mean, so, and it was clear that the Eagles did, that Kansas really just didn't have much of a plan for that. That was completely completely unexpected. So, I mean, and don't forget, during the first half, I mean, the interceptions were a huge problem, and I just think that they weren't able to find the holes or the openings that they were so accustomed to doing. And let's not forget, Philadelphia's ball possession was a major factor as well. They knew, just as long as they can just, they kept control of the ball most of the time. I mean, it was just a complete, that was just domination, so. And like many, I'm thankful because I can't stand Kansas anyways. I can't stand Taylor Swift. And, no, I don't think Mahomes was that good. And then you have to look back at this past season as alone. As you have to consider the fact Mahomes and Kelsey really didn't have a very good season at all. I always thought it was the team and the system that worked in their favor, And in a lot of ways, this past Super Bowl really does expose Kansas in a big way. Now, whether they get back or not, who really knows? But all I'm saying is a lot of teams are watching this. A lot of teams are going to, utilize the same strategy because I think that, they definitely exploited a lot of the weaknesses, that Kansas has. Again, that was my biggest. I always thought about that too. It's like they tend to crowd in too close on him sometimes. That's what I noticed in past games, like the offensive line does. And I think the Eagles caught on to that and knew that. So, hats off. And they played a complete game. I mean, they didn't let up once. I mean, they didn't, they didn't sit on the lead. They kept going. They knew, obviously they knew. They had to they had to score early and score often. They had to take them out of the game right away, which they did. And And I thought about that too. If the Eagles are going to win this game, they got to take them out right away. Get 2 or 3 touchdowns right away. Thankfully, they did. They were able to do it. You know, they played smash mouth. They played their game, you know, and it worked. So, you know, that's what I saw. And like many, well, granted, I was cheering and I was loving every minute of it. And just want to say congratulations to Philadelphia Eagles and thank you very much. So, but where do the Kansas City Chiefs go from here? Where do the Eagles go from here? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that, you know, the Eagles could very well be the team of now. I mean, I do think they should have won it 2 years ago, but a horrible call and just, you know, a lot of things just didn't go their way in that Super Bowl 57. You know, I wish they won, but fortunately it didn't. So I got to say, you know, this was redemption and I'm glad they won. So, and, you know, last year I was mad that Kansas won, but I was also upset with San Francisco as well. I mean, San Francisco should have won against Kansas as well, you know, but again, it was just, you know, typical Kyle Shanahan fashion. And San Francisco, fire Kyle Shanahan. Okay, guy's useless. No offense, but that's just the truth. So, but obviously, what happens to the NFL next year? Well, as you see, there wasn't a lot of bad calls in the Super Bowl, which was a good thing. Because I think the NFL knew that, you know, we don't want to risk losing a lot of our fans here, you know, so we have to play fair. So, and they did, thankfully. But what happens now? I mean, obviously what happens to, like I said, I mean, I think the Eagles could probably win one more, could probably get there again. I think they're going to be a strong team for the next 2 to 3 years, I would say. So then you have to consider the fact that, look what happened. I mean, Detroit Lions, I just think they kind of got shook during the postseason. I think they just weren't ready. They did great in the season, but the regular season, the playoffs are 2 totally different animals. And I just think that they just weren't ready for that, you know, and so they'll definitely be a factor next year, no doubt. They're still a relatively young team. Washington Commanders. Man, what a surprise that team was. You know, they're definitely going to be a factor next year, no doubt. You know, they were so close to getting there. And who really knows? And where will they be? And then on the other side, it's like, does Kansas have it to get... Well, I'm not writing Kansas off completely. I still think they're going to be a solid team. But I do think this Super Bowl definitely exposed a lot of the weak points. It exposed Mahomes and exposed a lot of Kansas's system. And so a lot of teams are going to be gunning to beat them in the regular season next year. So, but speaking on the other side, like Buffalo Bills, I do think that, you know, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. You know, they were very close to getting in. So I do think they're still going to have a solid, you know, maybe 3 to 4 seasons as well. Then you have to consider my pick for the team of the future, that being the Houston Texans. You know, I think they're going to be a lot better next year. Don't be surprised if they end up in the Final Four. Then you got to consider the Baltimore Ravens. Despite a few missteps, I still think that, you know, that team has also a very great foundation. You know, they know how to build, you know, they've had great success over the years. You know, I think they'll be a factor next year. But, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the playoffs this year. But all I could say is the Eagles came, they dominated. And I'm, like many, we're happy and excited to see that. Glad we don't have to hear about Kansas. Glad we don't have to hear about Taylor Swift anymore, which is a great thing. So, but what are your thoughts on the game? I personally enjoyed it. Where do you see the NFL going, you know, next season? Like, what are your thoughts on next season? What are your predictions for next season? And like I said, now I'm not entirely done with football in general. Now I live in Canada, so the CFL starts in June. I'll definitely keep an eye on that. The Rocks League, the UFL starts sometime relatively soon, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that. I'll also keep an eye on the NFL draft as well and postseason signings. But as you know, I'm a Saints fan, so to all my Saints fans out there, fellow Saints fans out there, have a great spring and summer. I'll see you all in the fall. And same goes said for all football fans out there as well. But yeah, stay tuned for future videos regarding the other football leagues that I'll be following that I mentioned, UFL, CFL, so stay tuned for that. I'll definitely cover those more often. Till then, congratulations. Thank you very much to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my final video regarding the Super Bowl and the NFL, so Take care. Good day. Peace, everyone.